Turn it loose. Questions for Coach?
Bush, how much difference is this continuity making for you?
I think staff-wise, it's certainly huge. You know, anytime you're brand new, you've got 15, 18 guys with you, just from a understanding of the system, the certain language you're speaking is critical. You know, we certainly still have to address the fact of our 57 players, 30 of them are new, you know, so it's a good challenge, it's a good blend, but again, I think there's year one issues, and you know, when you get to year two, the ability for everybody to be on the same page is critical.
Coach, you guys brought in a transfer quarterback in Zach Calzada and Cutter's returning. How are things looking in that quarterback room, and how are guys adjusting to your offense and maybe some of the new guys been here? Just talk about that room.
Yeah, I think we're taking one day at a time, certainly. You know, I think we certainly are pleased with the room. Cutter's been making great progress throughout his time here. Zach, again, is a guy that has a lot of experience. And again, I say that we're taking one day at a time. He's developing a knowledge of what we're trying to get done. At times you limit certain things to just understand a guy got here 3-4 months ago and is going to be playing big time football for you in a month. And so it's that blend. You're going to hear me say that a lot. And we're taking it step by step.
How do you just divvy out snaps? Because on the one hand, you know, you all have said publicly you believe in the future of Cutter, so he needs more reps, but do you threaten the chemistry with the receivers if you're taking reps away from Calzada? So how do you split those up?
Zach's probably taken about 75% of those ones reps. We're always looking for opportunities to get Cutter in with the ones, not just because he deserves it, but you always want to keep him right there and ready with those guys and playing with your first team. As camp goes, that can fluctuate.
Monday, a lot of what you'll do will run through Kendrick Law. What about him makes him so good?
I think there's a physicality piece with him, an explosive piece. We think he's got a chance with the ball in his hands to act like a running back when he's running it and be a receiver when he's catching it. And so, again, I think for him, just taking the next step as a true wide receiver from a route running standpoint will be critical, but he'll certainly be a guy we need to get the ball to.
Coach, you lost most of your line last year, except for a couple. How's that line developing so far?
Doing a good job. They really are. I think first and foremost, before you get to the skill set piece, look, it's a speed dating process. You know, in a lot of ways, you had 2 weeks to replace a lot of guys, and certainly Eric Wolford did a great job, and there's some luck in it too. You know, from a person standpoint, I think all 5 of those guys are very focused. They're very driven. They know what's on the line. And from a leadership standpoint, we will go with them. Again, skill set wise, you know, I think some of them have played in this league and others haven't. And that will be the biggest challenge for them is week in and week out what they're facing. The physicality will be critical for them to develop that kind of toughness, if you will, in camp.
They are physical, aren't they?
It's a physical group. It really is. They've done a nice job this summer. Again, we know what's coming. And so there's a certain level of physicality. There's a certain level of we like these guys. They're about their business. But there's also the part of we understand what we're getting into. And, you know, this will be as hard a stretch as the NFL. And we're preparing them for that. And we've got to have a great remainder of camp.
How's the run game going to look? Because UK fans have been used to guys like Boom and Benny and C-Rod, and it was a little more committee approach last year. So how's the run game going to shape out this year, you think?
I think it will start with these 2 big backs we brought in. Certainly from a physicality standpoint, I think when you guys come tomorrow, you'll see they're big, thick, strong backs. And so from there, we feel comfortable with Jason Patterson and his development and continue to bring him along. Mara's doing a nice job as well. He showed glimpses last year. Consistency is going to be critical. But I think everything will go through the 2 big backs to start.
Coach, last year when you came in, you talked about the verbiage. People had to learn your language and all that.
But with so many new faces this year, how similar is that challenge this time?
Similar to, if not more challenging. I think in last year, in the old version of college football, you might be the new coordinator, but there's 40 or 50 guys that have already been on the team, if you will. Now the challenge is certainly the 13 transfer portal guys mixed with another 15, 20 freshmen. And so we work really hard on that, right? Like just making everything make sense, be extremely learnable. It's critical because that part, first and foremost, from a language and a communication standpoint, to get guys to play fast is really, really important.
Jamori Mlin is a player that decided to stay despite some turnover in the wide receiver room through the portal. He decided to stay after not having his best year. Well, can you speak on his loyalty and what do you expect out of him in year 2 in your program?
Got a lot of love for Jamori Mlin. I think he represents, this program in a big way. Certainly had some tough decisions this offseason, and I don't think there's any one player that myself or the staff would like to see have a big year than him. Again, it's going to be a competitive receiver room. We're appreciative he's here.
You were really high on Hardley last year, and you kind of did the little tipsy-do going back and forth in the offseason. Have you seen growth from him throughout all of that process?
He can really play. It's going to come down to his focus level. It's going to come down to him understanding the game extends just past the field, and I think the sky's the limit for him, and we're excited about him.
The Cutter, he has a great second half against Texas, gets the start against Louisville. It didn't go the way that he would want it. But I think a lot of outsiders would think that the sense is like, well, the future is now. But what did it say about him that, even though you bring in a transfer quarterback, he didn't transfer? Because the easy thing would have been for Cutter to say, well, hey, good luck, I'm heading elsewhere.
Again, similar to Jamori's situation, I think the guy is a Kentucky guy that wants to be at Kentucky and get this thing right. I think there's also enough data these days, too, for these quarterbacks where, the grass isn't always greener, and I think we've got a lot of that. And I don't just mean that in the way of leaving, but it's learning a brand new system from a leadership standpoint, the amount of time it takes to insert yourself as a starter. We are extremely excited about Cutter. Okay, I think everybody knows that. With that being said, in my role, I got to think about Cutter Bolley and his future and what he's going to look like in 2 years from now and 4 years from now and what it could look like after that. And so I mean this. I mean, it's a similar situation to you get a high draft pick early and you put him in a situation maybe where the guys around him aren't ready yet, and he goes out there and can lose confidence quick. And so for him, we want to get him as many reps as he can, feeling as confident as he can, get the pieces around it, just like we want to do for Zach. And it's a little bit shorter of a timetable there, but all those things go into consideration. It's really hard for a young quarterback to understand that, to want it. Obviously, right now, that's what you want him to do. But the focus has got to be on consistency in his game and being ready.
Coach, it looks like every year it's going to be a new team. You're going to lose this team. You're going to have another team next year. Is that the way it's going to be?
Your guess is probably as good as mine. So we hope not. You hope that certainly in the recruiting process that you're identifying players that they feel a certain connection, that even though when they show glimpses that maybe this next year is not going to be a big year for them, but it's going to have a role that they're willing to stick it out, if you will. But I think it comes down to culture. I really do. And I think identifying the right players, them believing there's a plan in place for them will be critical. And that'll have to be the nucleus always.
That's selfishness, right?
Absolutely. And it's challenging. I think, naturally you always want to look at the players and this and that, but it's complicated these days. I think we all know that, right? And so it really just comes to the fact of here's a player who, for Team A, has a chance to have a role, and then Team B comes by and says, your role is you got a chance to be an every down guy. And so it's always understanding that. obviously fortunate to be in the SEC. This is the league guys want to play in, and sometimes are willing to wait a little bit longer than other places, but that's something I think coaches these days are going to have to navigate.
How does Zach's size and physicality kind of figure into what you kind of like to do with the quarterback run?
I think this is, as we all know, big players, and this is a big league, and so I think in a lot of ways his physicality is certainly going to help us, just from that body armor, if you will, and lasting. I do think mistakes were made with Brock, and probably early on running him too much. And I certainly own that from the standpoint of, in this league, that player's going to get hit enough, and he's going to take his shots, and we got to be extremely smart in not adding to that.